Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here. If you can just, yes, put on the slide. So my name is Alice, and I'm the CEO of the family. All right, so this is what we're gonna talk about during 20 minutes. It's about building successful startups in toxic environment. And when I say toxic, I mean when the best elements have to leave in order to develop and to grow. So this is my contact. Feel free to reach me. That's the main purpose of being here with you. It's to exchange. And if you have any question and want to go further, alice@thefamily.co. And this is a Twitter, @thefamily. Yep. All right. So who we are? What is the family? The family is not an incubator. The family is not an accelerator. The family is a minority, long-term, and strategic shareholder. And our goal is to create billion-dollar company. So these are some KPIs just for you to know what we've done. So we've created the family 2 years ago. We've raised 1.5 million euros with our investors that we call our godfathers. And now we are preparing a Series A. It's 270 startups that we accompany at the family, and 40 champions out of this. Champions, I want to say, startups that have a very high growth, meaning more than 20% monthly. And we've raised, since 2 years, more than 100 million for our startups. And we are fully private. There is no public money in the family. And we are profitable thanks to an online school called Coup d'État, in order to help anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur to make it online. But even if we've been doing all the things, I won't tell you that France is not a non-toxic ecosystem. We're still far from this result. And actually, when I was invited by Stéphane, I had the chance to meet all of these teams from Launch Hub 2 days ago, and they pitched. And it reminded me kind of the same flavor than when I was back in 2009 in France. Great people, high potential, a lot of competencies in the middle of the chaos. And just to give you, I mean, the main purpose of this conference is not to how many startups do we have in the room? How many entrepreneurs? Okay, so if you expect from this to know how you can succeed in toxic ecosystem, well, it's only in this slide, right? Discipline, focus, and save yourself, not the ecosystem. So this, what I'm going to talk, is to give a canvas for anyone who want to create an infrastructure for startups, ready to help the startups to make them feel as if they were not in this bad ecosystem, right? But the startups, the entrepreneurs, they do not have to mistake their role. Their role is to create a successful startup, nothing more, nothing less. Because if they dedicate themselves to help the ecosystem, I mean, they will be less efficient. So back in 2009, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm more of a creative person with a business background, and I happen to work for a digital artist, really by chance. And I used to work for a non-profit organization, and at that time, my boss, she was happy with me, and she said, Alice, you're gonna create an incubator in Paris. But it's going to be an incubator dedicated for tech entrepreneurs, so forget all the digital artists that you're working with. And I remember that there is one guy, and you might know Paul Graham, who had wrote this book about painters and hackers. And he was drawing parallels between these two categories. Like painters, hackers are people creating things out of nowhere. Like painters, they are alone in their teeny workshops or garage. Like painters, they are waiting for the guy who can gamble and put money so they can save time and create more. So more people can enjoy their creation. And I really felt and I understood this ping pong he was explaining in this book. And for me, it was obvious. The new generation, the new the new creators were these hackers. And contrary to the painters, the hackers, they were able to actually access the masses, blast millions of people, and give them new perspectives in their lives. So I came back to my boss and I said, let's do like program. Actually, he has done an accelerator. We should do an accelerator in Paris, okay? And what I want to say is that Silicon Valley may lead to accelerators, but the other way is wrong. If you think that an accelerator can bring successful startups as the one from as Stripe, as Airbnb, as Dropbox, who came out from Y Combinator, then we mistake something. We don't understand that the context is more important. And exactly what I mean with this sentence. So I built an accelerator in Paris, taking actually all the ingredients and copy-pasting, okay? Batches of startup, the right people, good teams, a 3-month program, intense, a lot of mentors, and a demo day. And 2 years later, 36 startups accelerated. It wasn't the same results as the one in Silicon Valley. So, actually, all of these things are the most important things, and they are the hypotheses we need to build a virtuous circle and a good ecosystem. It's first a question of knowledge. Secondly, it's the culture toward capitalism. So here we are in Bulgaria, right? And I think we share some patterns with the French culture. Culture of hierarchy, elitism, culture where the state and the government is really heavy when it comes to talk about tech innovation. So, and also the visions that we have toward capitalism. It's really deeply in our roots. The lack of ambition, the lack of risk, and the fear of failures. VC money, of course, we don't have the same VC money as somewhere else. Here we have more projects than money. There is more money than projects. So this makes just not comparable. Mentoring, give back attitude. This is not something that all culture in its DNA have. Legal infrastructure in favor of the startups. Okay, it's not yet here. It's not yet made. And the government involvement, which is way too heavy when it comes to talk about a virtuous circle in the startup ecosystem. So this was not here. So let's take it in the other way, and let's reverse, actually, the context. And this is how, actually, I quit my job and I decided to create the family with 2 other guys, Usama and Nicolas. And these are some rules that I think could apply actually here in Bulgaria. I think it could apply in Eastern countries, I think it could apply in Southern Europe, and I think it could be applied also in some of the countries in Africa, because we share a lot of patterns in common. So first thing first, the most important is education. And when I say education, I mean that for the moment, all the knowledge has been created in Silicon Valley, and still in Silicon Valley. You can read the best blogs from Peter Thiel. You can read the best blog from Fred Wilson, and you should, actually. But the thing is, one thing is to know what's important, okay? Everybody has Google, everybody has access to this information, everybody has access to this kind of experience. And you must read this. But when I say scaling education, I mean that it's not because you've read this, that you've understood this, that you can apply this in your environment, in your context. So when I say scaling education, I mean first, translation, but translation and adaptation to your context. In France, for instance, we are not binary people, meaning that I'm not black or white, yes or no, right or wrong. Whereas this kind of mindset is exactly the mindset you need when you're an entrepreneur. I'm more French, meaning like, I want to discuss, I want to be right. Yes, no, maybe, let's debate. Okay, so it's all about having the pattern and the scheme and the understanding of what it takes to be an entrepreneur for a French culture, for a French mindset. And this is what we call education at the family. It's one, we take the best experience from people from Silicon Valley. Here is Seth Godin on stage. Two, we translate it in French also, of course, but it's not a matter of language. It's a matter of how can a French mind can understand and can grab this knowledge. And skill learning education, I think, is the first barrier to actually change an ecosystem. Because it's not the entrepreneurs that are right now entrepreneurs, who call themselves entrepreneurs in our ecosystem in France, that are going to be the big hits. I think it's the ones who don't even know yet that they can become entrepreneur. And this is why education is really important. It has to be open. Two, kill elitism and welcome diversity. So this is really important pattern, I think, and for any ecosystem that we are in, and in Bulgaria especially. We all have this system of free school. Okay, we don't have to pay to go to school. And anyway, we have Google if we want to learn, right? But still, the barrier are in our minds. Still, the barrier are, I cannot become an entrepreneur because this is deserved to a certain category of white male with beer. So this is like one of the most important things is to be honest. At the family, we have 3 startups that are valuated more than 100 million. And out of these 3 startups, there is no one guy who's been through a high and big and respectable school. They are from nowhere. And this is what we call the dark matter. And this is a paradox. Like, if France has so many good people coming out of school, there is no entrepreneurs that come out of the university, free school. They all come from the elite school, right? So we need to shift this, and we need to make it accessible to anyone, because you cannot anticipate who will win. You cannot. So you have to make it as large as you can. So that's why you need to kill elitism and make it accessible and welcome the diversity. And when I say welcome the diversity, I mean it. I mean, you have to put on stage people from the diversity. You have to show success from people who come from different backgrounds. And third rule, very important, make it cool. And when I say make it cool, it's like it's okay if you're a mom and you have a child and you want to become an entrepreneur. Like, do some little things. For instance, at the family, what we do is that if you're a mom, you have a child, you can come and learn at the Coup d'Etat school, which is the entrepreneurial school. We will take your child, and we have a nurse, not a nurse, a babysitter. Yeah, a babysitter. She will take care. It's little details like that, but this will change the perception, because it will make entrepreneurial world mother-friendly. And you have to do this with everything. Make it cool. And write on the clothes, anyone can become an entrepreneur. Make it accessible. 4, free from government money. I'm sorry, I know in this room there are many people from trying to help startups and who belong to a government infrastructure. The problem is that the structure helping startups need to be aligned with the interest of the startups and not aligned with the political agenda. That's it. Okay? So right now I'm also addressing the startups in this room. Don't go to a governmental-backed kind of structure or infrastructure. Why? Because it's going to be the circus. The circus, you know what I mean. And I'm not making fun of it because I've been through this. I was in a non-profit infrastructure. I was working with the government, and I've witnessed this. And I felt like, oh my God, I have no choice, because these people pay me. So I cannot refuse not even the president, but this gallery of people coming in and blocking one full day of my startup, having to pitch, but you know that nothing will happen behind, and it will serve for nothing. So this is something to not to do. And it's also that you are a kind of model to your startup. If you don't show your startup that you are radical toward this kind of topic, that you refuse something where you're gonna lose time, okay, then they won't. And they will do the same. And they will be spending time pitching people who don't matter for the business. 5, design legal contracts. So now we're talking about things that are critical, okay, when you're in an ecosystem. For instance, I will take this example in France. You don't have you didn't have before the equivalent of convertible note. You know, a convertible note is a possibility to raise a fund once you are ready. You go to see an investor, they make a promise, and you have the term sheet afterwards, right? And the problem in France is that you had to pitch one guy and then have to wait for all the guy to have said yes, to have negotiated altogether the valuation, to be able to receive the proposal, to be able to receive the money. But money is important. You need the cash now, right? So we created this contract, actually. We've created this convertible note in France. And we've put it online, and it was open source, and we did it with lawyers, of course, right? But it's the role of the infrastructure to point out things that are really big barriers, and to overcome it. Because if the startup in your ecosystem can raise funds faster, then the competition will be more fierce. Then it will be stronger faster. 6, choose your partners. So when I say choose your partners, I mean like not only you have to pick up the most important service provider for your startup, so then don't have to negotiate one by one with every service provider. You have to do it. That's your job as a kind of syndicate for startups, right? So we go to see, for instance, if you want to launch on Kickstarter, you have the guy of Kickstarter at the family. If you want to have a free web server on Amazon, you have it at the family. That's your job as an infrastructure for startup, to create this kind of unfair advantages so that they don't have to think about it. But this, I'm talking about Kickstarter, Amazon Web Services. These are people who know the startup. But now I'm talking about other people, the accountant, the local accountant who has to deal with a startup, who don't know what it takes to build a startup. Then that's your role again as an infrastructure to educate this guy and to create some kind of boxes, like this is how you have to work when you work with a startup, step by step. And you have to use Dropbox, and you have to use Stripe, and you have to use blah, 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 right? 7, be radical. So I think you understood that you're a kind of model, you show the way. So if you're not strong on your position, then it's dead for the startup to be strong also. So refuse, I would say, there is a rule at the family, is that we're not a zoo. So anyone who wants to visit and come to the family, who has no agenda, who has no concrete things to give to the startups, or something we can build together, if there is no point in meeting, right? If a big corp come and say, hey, I would like to brainstorm with the startups about my sector, we refuse it. Okay, and sometimes it might be interesting, right? Sometimes you say, well, yeah, but if I'm a B2B startup, I want to meet and to have access to L'Oreal, to big corporations, and why would you prevent me from meeting them? Yes, if you have a product. Otherwise, you will lose time. Otherwise, you will try to create a white label of your, and you will not follow your strategy. Okay, so as long as you don't have the product, don't try to sell to a big corporation. That was just one example. 8, pay it forward. So, you know what is a toxic ecosystem? When I was saying like France is still a toxic ecosystem, like 2 days ago, I was shocked. Like one of our startups called Algolia. I love Algolia. If you don't know Algolia, go find Algolia. It's the experience of a Google search for any software in 2 lines of code. They were our second startup at the families, and they've been to Y Combinator. They just raised 18.5 million 2 days ago. I put it on, the Facebook page of the family. I was so proud. 18 million euros for a startup. They have less than 2 years. 17 likes. Yeah, we can upload. How many likes in the French tech ecosystem? How many likes? 30 likes. 30 likes. I put the cat, we just adopted a cat at the family, his name is Lion. I put the cat. 170 likes. But I'm not telling you about the reach. It's 1300. 13,000 people who like the family's page. This is a toxic ecosystem, you know what I mean? So, like, being jealous about the success of the others, being, whoa, wow, it's too much, or no, I want support. I mean, this kind of mentality, that's the thing we need to change. So when I say pay it forward, I mean it. I mean, even if the style of the family is not it's not the right one for anyone, but at least you know who we are and you choose. And with the startup, it's the same. If they are not happy with the family, then there is no problem. They can enjoy the infrastructure. And when we see that there is no fit, then you go back and we give you back your 3% equity. There is no problem. And that's the mindset. And if you want to enjoy the meetups, the educational talks and workshops, it's free. And 9, the culture first. So I'm always shocked when I travel to Europe and anywhere actually that is not Silicon Valley, when I visit incubator, accelerators, and I feel like it's always the same decoration, as if we wanted to copy the style of a no-style place. Because actually, I mean, Silicon Valley has everything but no style. You know, in terms of, there is no museum in Palo Alto, right? I mean, no, it's not hate what I'm saying. I mean, definitely the experience comes from there. But in terms of style, in terms of culture, in terms of background, in terms of all this enrichment, we should really play on it. You should play on it. I mean, it's crazy how Bulgaria is also full of things that they don't have. And this is what I mean when I say culture first. I mean, we play a lot at the family on the romantic image of Paris. When you enter the family, you feel like, you know, it's plenty of delicate decoration, as if you were in a castle. You're not, but you're in the place of startups. But it's typically French. We love to cook. We do dinners with chief. I mean, we play on this culture, right? And we should all play with our culture, because it's not actually what I mean is that it's not a choice that Silicon Valley has made not to have this culture. It's by default. We don't have to copy paste this. That's what I mean. But we need to understand the essential of this and to adapt it to our own culture. And finally, definitely, if you want to survive in a toxic ecosystem, you have no other choice. When I'm talking to startups, I want to be clear. Go where your market is, okay? But when I'm talking to infrastructure, you have to create these bonds to be able to breathe. And often what happens is that if you make it elsewhere, if you gain the trust of other investors, then you will gain the trust of the people in the country. That's often like that it works, you know? And when no other investor, when no international investors is actually betting on your startup because they think it's not stable enough, it's frightening, we don't know the culture, then it means that there is an opportunity because nobody goes there. So first, the price of the valuation are cheaper. And this is an opportunity for an investor, but they need a proxy. They need a trusted advisor. They need this bubble who will educate, make sure the products are good, the people are good, and become a big success, an international one, and invest their money in this. So this is the role of the infrastructure to create bonds with international other investors. Thanks. Thank you very much.